Let me tell you about ProHealthConnect.com. It's transforming healthcare payments, providing retailers a seamless process for over-the-counter and healthy benefit programs. By connecting retailers, health plans, and payment processors, ProHealth Connect creates one powerful, unified network. They empower independent grocers and pharmacies to accept health benefit cards without changing how they do business. With over 10,000 locations nationwide, helping more than 1.3 million people access the care and nutrition they need. Go to ProHealthConnect.com.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And we're going to talk some money and politics. Steve Forbes, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media. And Steve's latest book is Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, and How to Fix It. And John McLaughlin, Ace Polster, CEO of McLaughlin and Associates. Gentlemen, welcome. John, I know you've been in the field. I saw your numbers. I want you to talk about the pro-growth, that reconciliation bill that Republicans should be pushing. But before we get to that, I want to circle back to a big story, this Harvard-Harris poll that came out. It's nonpartisan. It's run by Mark Penn, right, who's Bill Clinton's advisor. And the thing about the poll is it showed incredible support, 70% plus support for President Trump's efforts, to denuclearize and end the regime in Iran. A poll that was shocking because almost all these public media polls show they're opposed to the war, and we're losing the war, and so forth and so. This poll showed something completely different. Also showed, by the way, 50-50 on a congressional race. Also showed that people may not like $4 gas or whatever, but they favored Republicans over Democrats on the economy. They favor them on border security, et cetera, et cetera. And I know everyone is saying if Republicans can't win midterms. This poll says otherwise, starting with the Iran war and working through some of the issues. Whatever your gripe is about Trump and the GOP, the Dems are worse. They're the pro-Iran party. So, John McLaughlin, I want to ask you about this poll. It's 50-50, by the way. Democrats and Republicans. We looked at the straws in there. So what do you make of it? Let's start with that.
Well, Mark, he worked for President Clinton. He does a very good job polling. Yep. Mark Penn with that survey. It models it after, even though it's registered voters, over 2,000 likely voters. Not likely voters, registered voters. But it models like our likely voter polls when we do them. And what he's done is he actually mentions why Trump went into Iran, and it was to stop them from getting nuclear weapons. So a lot of the media polls do two things. One is they pollute their samples with adults and people who aren't going to vote that don't like President Trump, and they underpoll Trump voters. Mark does not do that. The Harvard-Harris poll does not do that. Secondly, they actually put the wording of the questions in there that matches the issues of what's going on. They talk about nuclear weapons. If you tell Americans, do you support military action in Iran? No, they don't want to. We don't like to go in there. But like you saw in our polls, when we asked people if they support President Trump using the military to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, earlier this month we had it 52-40. They did. Do you agree or disagree that his actions were warranted and justified to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons? 59-32, they agree. And then they agree 60-30 that we need to finish the job. So that was on April 15th. So Mark's questions are similar to ours. Those media polls you're seeing, they're rooting for the Democrats. It's a Schumer surrender lobby that they've got going on. By the way, Chuck Schumer is the most unpopular Democrat, and he's President Trump's nemesis in this. and President Trump needs to hold him accountable for wanting to give up and allow Iran to get nuclear weapons, because, I mean, Schumer's only has a 27 favorable nationwide in a recent poll, 50% unfavorable. So that's why your choice of the Democrats being unpopular right now is their leadership's very unpopular.
Well,
and their positions are unpopular.
No, I mean, listen, Steve Forbes, Newt Gingrich was on the TV show, and he just called Democrats the pro-Iran party, just straight up. And these polls, by the way, suggest that. But here's my point. This Iranian war, which the media has made out to be unpopular and maybe the United States is losing, and et cetera, et cetera. This is a sleeper issue for the midterms. You know, there's always a known unknown, okay? The known is the war. What's unknown is the fact that it may be a whole lot more popular than anybody thinks, at least we're being told by the legacy media, virtually all of them. I'm going to assume that President Trump, that we will, quote, win this war, reopening Hormuz and stopping their nuclear proliferation and so forth. This could be a big, there's always something out there that people don't get, Steve. This could be it. That's my only point. I don't know this. My foresight is no better than anybody else's. I could be wrong here. But when I saw this Harvard-Harris poll, Mark Penn poll, I said, whoa, wake up call. Let's wait and see. So what do you make of it?
What I think it underscores is, one is the American people are a lot more patriotic, sadly, than the Democrat Party, yes, and much of the media. The other thing, though, underscores is President Trump has got to stop this ceasefire and go out and renew the fighting, sadly, and win this war convincingly and take it off the table and show the doubters around the world that he has backbone, that he can see things through, so that Xi Jinping and Putin don't get the idea that we don't see things through, that we tire and want to negotiate and surrender and not achieve our goals. He's got to put that to rest. I think General Key and others are right. I felt the same way. The ceasefire was a mistake. He did it. Now it's time to put this regime to rest. There's no negotiating with it. He should make that clear. We should be bombing the Pakistanis for letting the Chinese oil go to China and the like. So finish the 25% of the targets that the Israelis and our Pentagon want to hit that were stopped short because of the ceasefire. You get this war over quickly, it removes it from the table, but also has profound international pluses as well. But it also gives the Republicans, perhaps in Congress, the backbone. Something that we've been discussing is they need a tax bill. It's wonderful on tips, wonderful on Social Security. That's very nice, and overtime. But we need something that everyone feels by the fall in their paychecks. So right now, people are still in this kind of a gloomy mood, even though confidence is beginning to go up. And put it to rest. Have a good campaign issue. One, the president is decisive internationally. The bad guys know it. Put aside that don't think that this guy is an isolationist and that kind of stuff. But also pivot to the economy, where the Democrats are terrible as well. So you got a pro-Iran party, you got a pro-anti-growth party, and to make that the issue. We're a party of progress, a party of a law and order here and around the world, and let's go forward with it. But we got to have that tax bill to have a winning issue, and maybe throw in some health care, another subject for another time. We got to go on offense. And the best way to start is with a reconciliation bill that puts these issues, like voting, right on the table, four square.
So, John McLaughlin, you're saying, looking at your polls, as Steve Forbes called it, the Kudlow economic plan's popular. Okay,
right.
But it's a multi-bill. Look, I want to cut taxes. I surely want to inflation index capital gains. And Grover Norquist is working on this too, as well as Steve Forbes. And also, I mean, if we could get additional tax relief measures, fine. But there's, what happened to Doge? Would you guys, here's $500 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's on top of the stuff that Emmett Oz has found in Medicaid and these hospices and Medicaid frauds in Los Angeles and Minnesota, and I'm sure it's in New York and the other blue state. I mean, the GOP, they should cut taxes for growth. They should also reduce spending for growth. I mean, people don't want this overbearing spending.
Right. Well, in the poll that I sent you a question today, and it was completed May 1st, 1,000 likely voters. We asked a question that you inspired, where since the Democrats will vote against any Republican tax cuts before the November election, in order to get the economy growing, Republicans could use their majority in Congress to pass a reconciliation bill. Which reconciliation bill would you want them to pass? A small reconciliation bill that only passes spending bills, or a pro-growth reconciliation bill that cuts waste, fraud, and corruption, would require proof of citizenship and voter ID,
right,
and expands middle-class tax cuts.
Right.
And 57 to 26, the majority of all voters support the pro-growth bill. Republicans support at 78-12. Democrats 39% support, 40 oppose. Independents, which is about, this is what the midterms are about. They support at 53-28, and those who are undecided in their choice for Congress on the generic ballot, they support it 44-20. So, and by the way, people that disapprove of Trump, 36% support this. The Republicans, if they want to win in November, they have to do things like this to give voters a reason to vote for them.
Send it around. You got to get it around.
Good results. And the key thing is, in terms of cutting spending, we have to make it clear we're not cutting programs. We're taking the Leering Center and other real-life examples. That's what we should have a whole bag full of real-life examples of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah.
So we're not taking anything away from anyone who needs it, not touching the safety net. We're cutting out the massive fraud. Here are everyday examples, and let them defend the Leering Center and things like that, and say we support the safety net, but we want to make sure the resources go where they're deserved and not in the pockets of all of these crooks and scams around the country.
Well, dead people shouldn't get benefits.
Right.
That was Elon Musk's point. He got hosed down for it, but it's still a good point. Dead people shouldn't get benefits. They get other benefits. They get heavenly benefits, but they don't get budget benefits.
But they need real life examples, and people relate to that. You're not taking anything away from anyone who deserves it.
All right.
And Steve and Larry, one thing in the phrasing of my question, because I've tested this other ways and we've seen focus groups, I call it waste, fraud, and corruption.
Oh.
Because it's beyond abuse.
Oh.
It's when they sent the FBI to arrest the people that were stealing millions and millions from the taxpayers. That's what makes this an important issue, the corruption part. The Democrat, whether it's Maine, by the way, I've got a governor's candidate in Maine, this guy Bobby Charles, way ahead in the primary, because he's going after the corruption they had with Somali immigrants that Janet Mills allowed to happen. In Minnesota, it's about corruption. In New York and California, it's about the corruption of the Democrats, whether they're stealing from Medicaid or they're stealing from child programs, et cetera. If we got to put faces and names to that corruption.
What about the guy with the Nazi tattoo running for the Senate in Maine?
Exactly.
Maine going to elect a Nazi? Really?
It's either that or they return Susan Collins. So if I'm Susan Collins, I don't think she's getting any tattoos like him. But he's really radical, and the Democrat Party, and they've taken over the Democrat Party from Chuck Schumer. So Chuck Schumer's going along with all these radicals, and we need to make an issue and have a contrast election, a choice election.
I'm just saying,
tax cuts and corruption. Boy, that's a winning formula.
Yeah, I like that. Waste, fraud, and corruption. I gotta put that in the vocabulary. I like that a lot. Steve Forbes, I think Trump, by the way, to your point, and it's an important point, but he had a ceasefire, diplomacy. I think it's coming to an end. It could be this week. You listen to what he was saying Thursday and particularly yesterday. I mean, Iran is still trying to bargain for nuclear capability. He cannot permit that, and he won't permit that. And it sounds like, and I don't know everything there is to know, but it sounds like he's going to give CENTCOM a green light to finish the job. And it's supposedly only 14 days, but whatever it is, knock out the leaders. I think he's going to follow through on this.
And if he does, that'll be a good way to go to the meeting with Xi Jinping.
Yes.
With action and rather than looking like he wants an out of a seemingly unpopular war, which we know is not the case.
Yeah, Americans, you're right. Americans are a whole lot more patriotic and smarter. And we're talking money and politics with the great Steve Forbes, chairman, editor-in-chief, Forbes Media, John McLaughlin, ace pollster. Steve Forbes, is a big story about the state of Washington, which adopted an income tax for the first time, and a very high income tax, I think something like 9%. It went from 0 to 9, which is a lot. I don't know if they passed a wealth tax or not, but they're talking about it. California's talking about a wealth tax. New York and New Jersey are talking about wealth taxes. I mean, this whole idea that higher taxes can somehow spur growth and jobs and prosperity is remarkable to me. Just on the face of it, that Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, socialists that have taken over the Democratic Party, what is their growth message? How are Democrats going to run in November? I mean, this is why the Republicans have to be aggressive, yes. But on the other hand, these people have to be held to account. I mean, you got people running to all the red states, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, etc., all the red states, away from these blue states. The blue states make the most noise, but they're getting clobbered. How can they, in good conscience, explain to Americans that much higher taxes is good for growth? I don't get it.
It isn't good for growth, and they don't even make a growth argument. They just say we've got people who need help. They portray themselves as Samaritans. They're anything but, as we see in New York City. So it's about envy, stoking class warfare, and saying there's a lot of money out there for the grabbing. They don't realize most wealth is in the form of assets, and if you have a bad environment, asset values go down. They think it's just cash you can scoop up. So it's really about long term. It's really about the decline in the value of the dollar, the decline of social trust. And so when people feel things aren't going well, you look for scapegoats. We've seen it in the past, some ugly manifestations in the past. This is a manifestation of a present. Look at all those billionaires. They have a lot of money. We just need a little bit to help everybody. So it's nothing about growth, everything about envy, where you give you something for free because these people are bad, living high on the cog at your expense. That's what it's all about.
But it's really weird. I mean, here's this Mandami, card-carrying socialist. Okay, so he goes after Ken Griffith, the hedge fund guy, who, he's got a lot of money. He's also involved in creating a lot of businesses and jobs in New York. And Mandami goes in front of his building, where he lives, and sneers at him. You look at it, it's a sneer. And I just have a hard time believing, I don't know, maybe John McLaughlin needs to poll on sneers, but I just don't think sneering is going to work when people want jobs and wages and prosperity.
No, it's not. And by the way, this is just blatant big government socialism, and he doesn't want to just tax these rich people that buy apartments in Manhattan. He wants to. Mandami proposed raising property taxes on every homeowner in New York City by 10%. He also wants to raise corporate taxes, payroll taxes, etc. And Kathy Hochul hasn't presented a budget yet. And because of that, Bruce Blakeman has a chance to definitely beat Hochul in November because she's Mandami and the big government socialist tools. And in New York State, we can't take any more taxes. That's the top issue. Affordability, cost of living, taxes. And Bruce has a shot because of it.
I think people have to make it clear, though. When you chase after these people, you are destroying jobs and businesses, small business. In other words, get back on the offensive. Don't let them get away with sneering, okay? You can poll sneering. I don't think anybody likes that. Honestly, I just think, billionaires, why are they create businesses? You can't have a business without people working for it, okay? So people want jobs and wages. Don't throw these entrepreneurs out. Don't throw these job creators out. Let's get the language right, and let's go back on the offense in these midterm elections. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be looking like you're defending, 5,000-foot yachts and all that kind of thing, defending billionaires. What you're defending is the capital that grows the economy. And that's, again, why we need when people feel things are going well, as we saw with Ronald Reagan, all of that stuff disappears.
But even yachts create jobs. You can't build a yacht without job creation. Anyway, Steve Forbes, thank you. John McLaughlin, thank you.
It's out of here. Home run Ferry Hawks.
Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball. Come out to the ballpark as the Ferry Hawks welcome in the Charleston Dirty Birds May 5th through the 10th. Grab the kids and come on out. We kick it off on Tuesday, May 5th with Cinco de Baseball with $5 tickets and $5 food and beverage specials. And we end the week as we celebrate all moms on Mother's Day. Moms get in free. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.